Okay, I'm back. Another dynamic that I want to cover is the sane person having a discussion with an insane person, and it you will. I've run into this quite a bit. It's in there. It's in there. You'll feel it. You know, there that theme is in there. That a conspiracy theorist, a person who questions official explanations, they might be touched. They might have a problem, and the analogy that I want to relay, it shows for me something that we should be aware of, and I say we. I see us as a tribe of people that just question official explanations. That's all. But we have to be aware of something, and that would be body language, tone of voice, and choice of words. The analogy I want to run by is it's like this. There's a train station, and there's a guy, and he's got headphones on. He's listening to music, and he's standing in the railroad tracks. And a guy like me walks up and sees a train way off in the distance. He can hear it and he can see it. And it's coming down the tracks that the guy is standing on. And the guy is trying to get his attention, like this. And he's pointing that way. And the guy, is listening. And, go away. It's like that, just, all right, go away. And, he kind of makes a pest of himself, and he starts to tell him there's a train coming. There's a train coming on this track. He's done that. And the guy ignores him. He's looking down at his feet, listening to the music. And, he's like that, dismissive. And the train is coming down the tracks. And so the guy's getting nervous, the one doing the warning. And he's, waving his hands and screaming at him loud now about the train coming. And the guy is really annoyed with him now. He wants to finish the song. And he pulls the earphones out, and the guy says, there's a train coming. And the other guy, listening to the music, shows him the train schedule. And he said, there's no train coming until an hour from now. And he shows him the train schedule. Puts it back in his pocket, and he's listening to the music. Well, now the guy is really mad and panicky and hysterical, screaming that there is a train coming, you're gonna die. And finally the guy is so annoyed he turns away from him so he can hear his music. And when he turns away from him, he sees the train. And he gets off the track. And, that's the end of the story. But the point I'd like to make is, during this, the elements at work in this, for me, is that the guy sees something and he wants to relay it to the guy on the tracks. And he can't seem to convey this. First off, the guy won't listen to him, really. And when he does listen to him, he has his counterpoint. He has his knowledge that runs counter to the warning guy's knowledge, etc., puts it down, dismissive. He's very dismissive. And then, which causes the guy doing the warning extreme frustration and fear. And so he is wildly gesticulating. His eyes are bugged out. The veins in his neck are sticking out. And he's displaying all the symptoms of an insane person. And by all rights, in all fairness to the guy listening to music, the guy doing the warning has had a break with reality. He's had a break with the reality that's in front of the guy listening to music. When the guy finally turns to get away from him, the guy sees what the other guy could see so clearly. And the guy joins the reality that the guy doing the warning was in. Now their realities are one. By, you turn 180 degrees, that's a change in perspective, The point of observation has changed. So that's what it all means to me, And I say this because we must, our tribe must be very aware of our body language, tone of voice, and choice of words, because we are very easily regarded as insane, mentally ill. Now, I'd like to read you some statements, if I can find them here. I had them all written down, but they illustrate. Okay, I think they further illustrate my point that we have to be aware of how we come across. I want to read you a few things here. The Gulf of Tonkin incident never happened. Nixon committed treason. The 9/11 air was not safe to breathe. There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11. The famous babies in incubators Naira testimony was false. Martin Luther King was spied upon and harassed by the FBI. John Lennon was spied upon by the FBI. The Dalai Lama received $180,000 a year from the late 50s to the early 70s. Do you hear all that? I mean, listen to all those statements. I feel that those statements, and I read them as flat as I could, but I feel those statements have some elements in them crazy, disconcerting, disturbing, inappropriate maybe. They take one aback just hearing them. And there is sort of a craziness to them. But they're true. And if you put them, say, in the words of like a homeless dude, can you spare a quarter, spare a dime? Gulf of Tonkin incident never took place, you know what I mean? 9/11 air was never safe to breathe. Can I have a quarter? Babies in incubators, that was a bunch of BS. It's like that. It sounds loony, It sounds insane, and it's really not good after dinner topic, anything like that. So we have to be aware that just our subject matter is a bit disconcerting. Now, here's something else. The United States government drew up a false flag attack plan approved by the Joint Chiefs, and this plan involved the sinking of boats filled with refugees. It involved the sinking of Navy ships. It involved attacks on American cities. And all of this was to be blamed on the nation of Cuba, which would drum up public support for an invasion of this country. So And next thing I'd like to read is for over 30 years, the CIA infiltrated the American news media for the purpose of gaining control of it. And for 30 years, there were CIA operatives trained as to be bona fide journalists in our news media, and there were bona fide journalists trained to be CIA agents as well in our media for about 30 years, and the U.S. government has since said that they stopped this operation and it goes on no further. The United States government conducted mind control experiments on American and Canadian citizens, and these experiments involved they secretly gave LSD to people without their knowledge, and they continued these doses without their knowledge for an extended period of time, years, so for the simple purpose of studying the long-term effects of LSD. The United States government infected American citizens with syphilis and did not treat them, and they infected them with syphilis without their knowledge, did not treat them, and allowed the syphilis to run its course over a period of years so they could study the long-term effects of untreated syphilis. The U.S. government paid agents from all over the world to procure the body parts of deceased babies and children and bring these body parts to a laboratory so that they could study the effects of radiation on infants and young children. Now, these statements, once again, if you listen, there's a craziness about what I just read. They sound nuts, crazy, and they are dark, sinister, and like the last one I read, ghoulish. But they're true. So I have to ask all of us to, if we're in a debate and, it's getting hot and you're being called a conspiracy theorist and a nutcase, loony, and you're making points, we have to be aware of what we sound like and look like, when we reference, the U.S. government bought body parts of little children, infants, see, whoa, it's just like, you get this beat, it's like, man, he's over the top there with that, So it's easy for me to say, don't let your emotions kick in during a debate. All I can say is try not to, because typically with a truth seeker, the material itself is disturbing. It's not easy listening music, it's not like an FM radio station, So we have to be mindful of our body language, because when the eyes come out and all this stuff, and it's like the guy trying to warn the dude on the railroad tracks, man, by all rights, you look and sound insane, and I have to remind myself that yes, we have had a break with reality, in the sense that we've had a break with the other guy's reality. The other guy's reality is the official explanation, and we break with that. We have a break with that. We have a real problem with it. So These are things to be mindful of, in my opinion. And like I say, it's easy for me to say that we should watch our emotions, and it's very difficult to do. And I guess another thing, a piece of advice, I suppose, I find that official explanationists and conspiracy theorists, if you will, truth seekers, that's what I call them, they get into it, and when a mistake, I think a mistake that truth seekers make is they raise profound questions, and sometimes they offer their own official explanation, which is a rabbit hole, and steer clear. You got to steer clear of things like that. 9/11 for me is a prime example. There have been many, many, many profound questions raised about 9/11, and in particular the laws of physics applied to 9/11, the temperature of the jet fuel as it burns, the temperature of steel as it melts, these things. These are all very good observations, and I think they have great merit, and there are many of these points made in the 9/11 discussion, but it is a terrible mistake to explain who did it and why they did it. These are things we'll never know. Investigations are expensive, time-consuming, and I dare say only the U.S. government has the resources to investigate something like this. But I think that truth seekers make great points, and they're architects and engineers, for one thing, for instance, made great points, and still do, about 9/11. But the fatal mistake, the rabbit hole, is to jump in and try to explain who did it and why. It would do us well to leave all that alone. But the questions raised by truth seekers about 9/11, they have great worth. They have great worth, and that is my observation on that. And I think that's all I want to say right now. Well, thank you for listening.